access to basic skills in the world, and for everyone, whoever they are, regardless of their internet access. And that allows you to actually get an understanding of basic technology that is needed in the world. And these are scarce skills like your IBMC. And so a bit of background about who I am in terms of why I actually went into the space of teaching people, especially students. My passion is in students because when I was in university, that was my first interaction with a computer. I didn't have a computer at home or even know how to use it. And I remember when we were writing essays and we had to have a word count, I would get confused and not know what to do. So a friend of mine and us will be sitting there and counting each word. And then someone at the library came and said, you know what, there's actually a word count at the bottom. And so, and I know that's an experience of most students or people from different backgrounds, especially in a disadvantaged background. And when I graduated, before I graduated from varsity, I got an offer, right, to join a company in IT. And in varsity, as much as they can try and teach you so many technology, it's very hard for them to teach you industry technologies. And that's what you need as a student, because you may love technology, but you may not have experience in the actual technology that is run by many companies out there. And so that was my issue. I loved coding, and I was sitting in the labs for hours just coding and trying to figure out everything. But when I got the offer, and being in South Africa, where a lot of obviously reality for graduates is that you can graduate and then sit at home without a job. So I took the first job that was offered to me, and it was great. I mean, being a sub consultant pays and all that, but it wasn't great for me. I didn't find it passionate for me as much as I was doing really well in it, but it wasn't something that I was really passionate in. So later on, I was willing to move, going to start from scratch, and I then joined IBM because I wanted to do coding and learning as much as possible about new technology. That's where my passion is, just learning new technology and exploring them and getting to understand them. And so what I would like to share is a link for Students Hub. This is for people that have never experienced or seen an IBM Z. And it's not only IBM Z, let me just share my screen. It's not only for IBM Z, it's for you to go and explore different technologies that you never experienced before. So on the Student Hub, we have videos of your data science, where we've actually created the content, your AI, machine learning, and so forth. And you can explore these videos and get an understanding of the actual industry technology. And when I was talking about my career line, where I started from, first going to STEP and then going to IBMZ later on, that for me, I feel that if I had exposure to technology, I would know exactly where to go into. So in the Student Hub, you'll get access to videos, you'll get access to blogs. You can also blog if you want to on the Student Hub. We can feature you as a speaker if you want that. But also you get resources at your fingertip in terms of the industry technology. And so I would like to share this link and for you to just go and register. Once you get registered, you get an email that confirms you. And at the end, you have to accept the terms and conditions, and then you search for Student Hub in the beginning. Then you just click on register or enroll for Student Hub. And this will allow you to get access to this. And once you've registered on the Student Hub, one thing that I would like to share is that you will be able to then get a certificate. So I will set you attendance certificates for this session, but I will need to first verify you on the Student Hub that you registered as a student there. And from there, we'll then take your details and send you the certificates. So for today's session, it's data science. And I know, most of us think data science, and it's actually a new term. Way before, we always thought, data science are all about a scientist and all that, or just someone sitting in the back in the basement and just crunching numbers, and they have to know and be geeky and know all these numbers about everything. But actually, just think of different examples of data science. If you look at the credit card fraud detection, it's using all this information about the person, about everything that they're getting, and then verifying that information. Your self-driving cars, those cars need to have all the information about, okay, this is a person, and getting all this data and actually analyzing that data in order for it to work precisely. There was an instance where a person was using an Apple Watch. So an Apple Watch actually detects or looks at your sleeping cycles, your breathing rates, and everything. And this helped because at some point when the person wasn't breathing, it detected that the person was actually suffering from a stroke. And with that, because of all the data that it was taking from monitoring the person. So data science is all about looking at the numbers and then telling a story from it. And I just would like to find out from you guys if you have any examples that you know of that where you've seen data science working. And I would like the session to be as interactive as possible, because if it's not, I know that you might find it quite boring if not, or maybe you will find value from it if you actually interact. Have you ever seen or heard of a data science environment, or where data science was playing in the background? So quiet. Okay, cool. So I know that later on you will be, okay, there's some comments. Yes, great. Okay, cool. So now we can start with the data science process, right? In the beginning of it, especially I feel that in data science, a lot of stats, we had data science for our stats class. Nice, that's great. I find that in a lot of data science have actually said that they found that, one mistake they made is not actually defining the problem when it comes to data science process. You're not understanding the actual problem that the stakeholder might say. The stakeholder might say, just like in your use cases, they told you, okay, this is the use case. Now you have to either find problem, or they told you what the problem is. And you understanding the problem specifically and understanding what the stakeholder is looking from you to get is the most important part of the business data science process. So you understanding it and making sure once you defined it and you understand it, you document it and obviously send it to the stakeholders for you to both agree on what is a problem, and then not that later on they find that there's more problems and they want you to attack that. All right. And then the next thing is you collecting the data. So you collecting the data, that means, let's look at an example where it's Uber, right? So Uber will normally look at, analyze the customers or the consumers that are using the app and see who is actually using it more frequently at what time. So they might find that on a Monday morning, a lot of people are going to work. So there's a lot of people requesting. So from there, they collecting all the data from the consumers at that time, right? And so while you're collecting the data, the next step is obviously cleaning and preparing the data. This is finding inconsistency from the data. There might be duplicates in the data, and you just removing that and making sure that the data is completed. And from there, you will then use the database. So when it comes to data science, database resource management and logistics, yes. So when it comes to database are very important when it comes to data science, because you need to understand the data, right? And database expands in your knowledge and allows you to access the data more. So you will need to understand how to structure your data in your own tables and make sure that it explains everything and analyzes in a best way. And when it comes to database, there's a lot, right? You'll find that in any example, let me just try and exit. Okay, so it doesn't allow me to move from one stage for some reason. Okay, cool. There it goes. So we found that there's a lot of database in the world, right? And so if you go to this engine, it will tell you different database there and how many and how they're ranked. And it's up to you which one you prefer. And obviously you might just take, and when it comes to database, you all understand that it's sequential, you getting that data, and some of them will either look at structured or unstructured data. So you will find the ones that you feel that are relevant to you, and just taking one and understanding it will give you a great idea of how to work with database. And now for me, I will say maybe one that I can think of that will be great for you as a starting point is Postgres SQL SQL. That is because it's freely available for you to download since it's open source. Obviously, when you want the support, then you pay for that. But in terms of you getting it into your laptop and start you working with that, right? But you can choose any ones that you feel comfortable with. And if you already know one database, that's a starting point for you. Behind me. And then from there, you need to explore your data. This is you defining your data, refining it, and making sure that it's the way that it's supposed to. And from there, you want to make sure that if you miss the stage, this will then make you choose the wrong variable, the wrong model that you are required to take. So you need to make sure that you understand the pattern of your data. So if you see that there's maybe a peak on a Monday morning, and if you're taking that data from there and start working with it, and then choosing the model that you want to choose. And here you're applying your machine learning. And when it comes to machine learning, for those that are not too familiar with it, it's you getting it's the machine learning by itself and without much of a human interaction in it. And obviously machine learning is quite broad, and it can get you to go into a maze when you're trying to learn it. But the first thing that you can start learning it for when it comes to data science is pre-processing. This is you getting data sets, training sets, and testing these sets. Machine learning is obviously broad and has a lot of branches, and you want to start with data pre-processing, right? And this will be a first step in you understanding what it is and what you need to do. And then the next step is data modeling. Identifying the model that best suits the scenario, your requirements. And then you need to understand when you set it when you're doing that, identifying that model, you need to make sure that it's predicting what you wanted from the beginning. You want to make sure that it's looking at in the example of Uber, it's looking at every consumer and saying, okay, what is it predicting? Is it predicting the correct information? And it's making sure that you can see everything that it wants you to see. I'll show you one example of one of the tools that they use, which is called YOLO. And there's obviously version 5 right now, but I'll show you version 1 of it. And what it does is looking at an object and seeing what it is. So it's using deep learning, and you're obviously, you as an individual that's programming this, you will then make sure that it's identified the correct information. So if you look here, right, in this video, this is a James Bond movie, and it's very fast, but it's identifying each object and telling you this is a person, this is a chair, and so forth, right? And what has happened in the background, there's a person that says, okay, in a video, I'll identify each object and make sure that it sees it, right? And so as it moves, it identifies, even if it's the smallest object in the whole video or image, then it will be able to identify, because you have made sure that it's set up in the correct way. So you can go and explore YOLO, which is you only look once. I know that there's a acronym, it's the same acronym for you only live once, but in this case, it's you only look once. So it will look at each individual object and identify what it is. And so in a movie or wherever it is, if you make sure as the person that is programming it and making sure that you're choosing the data set and writing precisely what it will be able to identify it correctly. I know I was watching this other movie called, which is a cartoon animation movie. And in that movie, they were showing these robots, and they were trying to identify if this particular dog was actually a dog or something else. Because it was big in size, it couldn't identify it properly. And it's just obviously a co-op. They made it a joke, but in actual fact, if the person made sure that they identified, they made sure that the object was identified correctly, then it was going to be able to do it in the way that it's supposed to. And then the next step is data validation. This is you checking the data, making sure that it doesn't predict any false prediction or anything that is incorrect. And then obviously after that, you need to make sure that you deploying and optimizing. But before that, you need to visualize and communicate, find your clients and build your data, your dashboard, showing them how it works and what to look for in that data. And we have a few examples from a list that I shared here. So this lady is a data science, and what she does is she takes all the data. Maybe the client will say, I want you to look at people that are coming from rural areas into the city. And so she'll show it in her data, and she will make sure that it's nice and visible to the clients. And this is what you do when you're doing the visualization. You make sure that it's as visual as possible, and it has all the information that is obviously required. So she's taking all this data and she's making sure that it looks good for the client. And this is a dashboard that she might use for her clients, right? So just show now. So there's a lagging behind my internet, but I hope you can see where she's looking at the data about the cat, and she's just putting information there and wanting to see if she can get as much information about what the cat does, meow, and all that. And so from you creating all this data, getting all this data, and then making sure that it's creating the impact that you want by either using deep learning and machine learning. And then at the end, obviously you want a dashboard that will be shown to your clients of what you're expecting for the system to do. And then from there, you will then deploy and test, and making sure that the client knows exactly what they're getting from it. And you've tested. You first obviously will test in a development side, and then after that you've tested in the production side, and making sure that it does what it's supposed to. And from here, you see, from the first point we said, when it comes to you making sure that you understand the question, the problem that you're defining. And if you don't make sure that it's defined correctly, you might end up creating a car that looks like this instead of the one that the client explained in the beginning. So you need to understand what is the actual problem that you're trying to attack, and then going from there and analyzing it, right? When it comes to statistics, I know a lot of people might be worried about things that they need to study when it comes, or learn when it comes to data science, but it's very, I think with any new technology that is coming out, if you're scared of the breakdown that a lot of people might show and say, you need to know math, you need to know R, you need to know all these things, you might end up not actually getting into that because you're looking at the whole idea. But if you want to start with data science, I think the best or the first step you can start with is statistics. And you don't actually need to know everything about statistics. You can start with just the basics, right? And here we've listed all the fundamentals of statistics, but with you as someone that has never either known statistics before or either learned it in high school or wherever, and now you want to go back and just learn the understanding of it, you need to know just the basic and not be a pro in it. So if it takes you a few days just to go back and read and understand the basic from the beginning. So distributions, just knowing your normal standard deviation, you need to know, be able to know between mean, medium, and mode. And from each, especially when it comes to the skewness of the distribution, you then need to know about the statistics. Significant in people is very important. And when it comes to you preventing a reporting of things that are not statistically significant, you need to understand all this information before you obviously create your models, and right. And finally, you want to know A/B testing, and this is very important whether you it's marketing or online marketing, and then you want to build the right mindset for comparing the side-by-side industry results, right? So you want to understand just the basics of these and not going too much into the deep dive of it, and understand it, so you can be able to be a data science and just get a basic understanding. So we said when it comes to database, if you choose one, that will be great. And in statistics, if you can understand just the three that we've listed here, and that's for you to be able to go into a starting point. And then when it comes to languages, obviously there's R and Python and other few. But I would think that Python will be a great start for you to get into data science. And then the secret ingredient when it comes to being a good data science is you. So remember, obviously the idea when it comes to data science is you getting the data, you being able to analyze that data, and having a better understanding of analyzing that data. And at the end, you making sure that you tell a story with your data. From what you gathered, what did you then find out, and what are you getting from that data? When it comes to job opportunities, when it comes to data science, firstly, when it comes to the pay, obviously it depends on the country that you're in, and if it's entry level and so forth. But because it's a new role in the world, right? A lot of companies have opening when it comes to data science, but also the paying is quite high. And that's because, a while back, I remember when I was in high school or varsity, when we wanted to save our projects, we had to use a floppy disk or something, or a USB, and a USB cost a lot at that time. But now you can get a terabyte in your phone, and that's because storage is cheaper now. And when it comes to data, there's just so much in your Facebook alone. You have so much data, and a lot of companies out there want to use that data for either making better business decisions or making their tools and applications much better. So you look at here of looking at the business opportunities. You can actually enter into any industry when it comes to your data science, your healthcare, you looking at diagnosis of the clients, looking at the data that they're putting in, right? Government officials and transportation. There's just a lot that you can get into when it comes to data science. And education, media, and so forth. We remember in the beginning we were talking about that application, cars that can drive themselves. That is data that is needed, and that's roles for you to get into that you might want to. And obviously, remember when I mentioned that when it comes to data science, you don't need to make sure that you know everything when you start, but you going to these different websites, which I'll show now, allows you to get an understanding of the different topics that you might get into. So if you look at Kaggle, it actually allows you to look at data sets and start working with them. And you don't need, I think when it comes to us individuals, especially in IT, you want to work with the problem and identify the information so you can then start from there and getting an understanding of it. How do you go about using it and so forth? And so I think this website is great for you to start with. And then we have another website where obviously it's from IBM, but it allows you to get training, free training from data science, AI, and you get certificates from it. So I'll stop there and just ask if there's any questions from anyone, or maybe you need any clarification on the things that I've listed.
Hey guys, who has questions? Miss Phila will answer your questions for you. Don't be shy, guys. Raise your hands. Hi, Jyoti. I know you look so pretty right now. I know you have questions for our okay. Ramana has a question. You can
Okay, so yeah, so you can write it on chat or you can unmute yourself.
Hey Phila, I'm Ramna from India, and I have a question in data science, especially with IBM. So the cloud is increasingly being in increase, even with IBM, Google Cloud, and Amazon. I just want to know how cloud will automatically increase the value of data science in general, and how do you go about approaching both of these fields in career development?
So cloud is very important when it comes to data science. I'm sorry I didn't touch on this, but obviously when you're getting all this data and you looking at it and making sure that it's run somewhere. I think obviously cloud and data science are the future ready topics, but you will need a place where you can put it where it will be secure and all this data that you're getting from, right? You're getting it in different clouds or a different platform. I mean, obviously staying there. Even with your clients in this day and age, a lot of clients are moving towards cloud if they're not already. So they will require the information to be in a cloud. And if you saw some of the links that I shared with you, especially with the lady that's putting her visualization with how it looks like, she has it in a cloud-based environment where and she's showcasing where to get that information and everything. So I hope I answered your question. If not, we can chat later and I'll give you more information about the cloud-based side. Okay, there's
someone asked before I will answer Jyoti. Someone asked in the chat, how can data science impact the world, and what are your predictions of data science in the future?
Sure. It's already impacting the world right now in terms of when you're looking at the different industries that it's impacting right now. Okay, firstly, let's look at COVID right now. All this data from every country and all what's happening, that's already impacting the world, right? And without data science, you couldn't analyze how many people. I'm just looking at South Africa right now. Every day they're putting out data that, okay, so many people have gotten corona and how many actually have survived from it and how many deaths. So it's already impacting the world right now and making sure that it's becoming much better in terms of analyzing that data and in finding solutions for it. So looking at each individual and saying, okay, these are the things that we're looking at, right, of your symptoms, and in getting that data and making sure that we're finding solutions for it. And because they're getting all this data from different countries, they can then analyze that data and see, okay, in South Africa, there's a different variant, whereas in the US, there's a different variant. So that's what they're doing already. It's impacting the world currently, and it will, in the future, I think when you're looking at careers in the future that will exist, they've said so many times in different research papers that data science is one of the careers that we should be aligned to because of all the data that is there, and they want to analyze this data and make it better.
Okay, so Jyoti, you can ask Miss Phila.
You can either unmute yourself or write on the chat.
Hey Phila, so it was indeed an awesome presentation. I got to learn a lot, many things. So I just have a question from you, like, so if we have a project coming up regarding a business model, how do we break that stuff into algorithms if we have to, like, gain some, like, if we have to go with the flow of latest trends and include them in our algorithms? How do we go about that? Like, how do we analyze our business model and have data models according to them?
Okay, so I think it will depend on obviously what you're trying to, obviously the first thing we said, we're looking at the question, right, on the problem that you're trying to attack. And then from there, let's just look at an example where you're looking, okay, let's look at one example that I was previously engaged in, where they're looking at people with disabilities, and they're saying, okay, from there, what solutions can we get them? And they were looking at all things that they don't have access to, and maybe that's jobs, and obviously in the app they are not always looked at in terms of individual. And so from there, what do you look at? You're looking at, okay, the people with disability needs different, not just the chat and me talking to them, but maybe things that were right there because some of them can't hear. So you're looking at the problem first. And when it comes to things that you want to write, when it comes to your data science, you said, how do you look at the algorithm when you're looking at the problems, the specific problem? So what you'll then do is looking at it, you're taking all the data that you've gotten from there, and then going and using either YOLO if that's what you want to do. Do you want it to be defining each object? If not, what do you want? Do you want to go and look at, so obviously YOLO is using deep learning. Are you wanting to go that route? If not, then do you want to use machine learning rather, or do you want to use a statistic? So it's up to you what you want to use looking at that use case scenario. I hope I answered you. If not, we can chat later. Maybe we can go into deeper, me understanding your actual use case and then trying to help you in that sense. Very interesting in the cyberspace, and that's security in particular. How can data science improve countries' cybersecurity? Wow. Okay. Remember. So I know for a fact that when it comes to credit card fraud, so it's looking at. For me, example, I used to travel a lot, obviously before COVID, and if I was in any other country, they'll obviously block my card and say, how come this person 2 days ago, she was in South Africa, now she's in the US? So it's using all this data about this individual and then making sure that it's putting security features in there. Already in your emails, if you find that now someone with a different IP in a different country is accessing your email, is to start flagging that and saying, this is not the right information. So it's using data about the actual individual, where they are, what is their normal pattern as an individual, and then using that and putting features there, and then it will block things according to where you are. I hope I answered that correctly. Just in those use case scenarios, I hope it actually features in there. But when it comes to security and data science, with all the data that you're getting, it works really well together. Any other questions?
We have one question in the chat box. It says, I am very interested in the cybersafe and cybersecurity in particular. How can data science improve a country's cybersecurity?
Okay. In a country's cybersecurity, so I was just using different scenarios in terms of a person's security as an individual, right? When you're looking at the credit side. But when it comes to the country's security, I think when it depending on the country's each security, but they will be looking at the data that is entered there, or maybe the data about the individuals that are coming in, just like in Home Affairs. So this is the Department of where they're looking at people coming in the country and out, and by everyone sharing information about that individual, they already know if that person is high risk or terrorist or not, because they're sharing information. So it's all this data that they're getting that will flag these different individuals. So it will help the country to be better secured in the future, hopefully. Any other questions? So someone is saying, using data science, can you tell us what will the world be like in the near future due to pandemic? Oh, I hope I wish I had answers to that, but I think they're getting as much information of what would our future look like in the future because of the pandemic. They're already saying that most probably a lot of us will be working from home. When it comes to technology, I know in South Africa we were not ready, and I think the pandemic has shown that we were not ready in terms of us having all the resources we thought we had. Even first world countries found that because of the pandemic, it actually made it different, and they were not ready. But when it comes to data science, it will give us different career options, because now everything either will be virtual and so forth. And it will use all the data that we got from the pandemic in terms of, what are the right things to do for us to avoid a situation like this in the future. And using data science, even in the things that are already happening, they were looking at, because of the pandemic, we probably we're not driving as much. So what has the environment differed because of everything that has happening? So I think with data science, it's just we'll look at everything pro pandemic and then after, and then to start looking at the actual data and making sure that we live a better life, and also change the ways that we lived. Where and how data science is exactly used in engineering? Kindly the example in mechanical engineering. Sure. Can you just explain a bit when it comes to mechanical engineering? Just or for my understanding, in terms of, there's a lot when it comes to engineering, so I just want to understand in that specific particular part.
Maybe then Vamsi, could you just unmute and just tell?
Everywhere, and I think in your particular part, you can explain the information that you're getting and receiving, and how it can analyze that. Maybe you can give me an idea of that. Manufacturing, yes. Example, manufacturing, yeah. So in the manufacturing, you're getting things coming in and obviously creating things, and then after that, so that's data already. And you want to know, are you actually creating or manufacturing the amount consumed by? I think there was an example that was shared a while back, not in my presentation, but I shared in some of the presentation, where we're looking at in the future, what has happened is, or what will happen is, as an individual, when you go buy from any store, they will know how many, let's say, things that are manufactured. Let's say your microwave, how many microwaves will be bought this month and how many will be bought next month. So you as a manufacturing industry, the great thing about manufacturing, depending obviously what you're manufacturing, is it doesn't have a end date or whatever. It doesn't expire most of the time. So, but then you will know how many will be needed at a specific time, so you will manufacture the exact amount. And obviously they'll be using data in the background, making sure that they're analyzing the consumers that are buying it and manufacturing the correct amounts, instead of having things that are just sitting in the storage, and obviously you have to pay for that storage. So it will help in that sense. I think that's one example that it could help, but there's a lot more that will be helped, because even when they are buying the tools that will allow them to manufacture the particular product, they will know exactly how many to go and buy, because their system will be analyzing how many will be needed for each and how many they need to buy in order for them to create that batch.
Also, someone raised their hand. Hello, Ramana. If you have a question for Miss Fela, you can ask it right now.
I think Ramana did the beginning. I'm not sure.
Raised my hand in the earlier stage. I didn't lower my hand, I guess.
Okay, no problem, Ramana. So we have another question, ma'am, for you in the chat box.
So they were asking, in rural villages with no much facilities, how do children do their schoolwork?
Yeah, I think that's always a hard one, right? When it comes to disadvantaged backgrounds, not being able to have access to technology, to a laptop, to a computer, and so forth. So what's happening right now, I know a lot of industries right now are making sure that there's access to the internet, and we can say there was a survey that was done, and they said, there's a lot of people that have a phone, and in some households more than one. So I think we're going that route, but even in that case, not in some rural areas, not everyone have a phone that will give them access to the internet. Maybe it's just for them to have a call. So I think there's a lot of work that we as industries, different industries need to do in order to empower and enable everyone to have access to the internet and be able to learn. So Nipan, I think it's also one of those things that we look at, and especially if you know of those villages, what can you as an individual try and do to give them access to either a cell phone, working with different organizations to just fund them with that, or working with the government to get them the resources. Sorry, I can't answer that, but it's always a problem when it comes to the world. And I think with the Student Hub, we recognize that not a lot of people have access to the internet, and even with the RFZ, which is teaching people to code from different backgrounds, we have the app. We'll have the app on our phones, but we also still know that not everyone have a phone, so it will be a struggle, and it's always a struggle for me, because for me, my passion is to get people from different backgrounds, especially disadvantaged background like myself, where they can have access to technology and learn different things from the internet. Right. Thank you so much for the questions. Anything else? Any comments?
Regarding the comments, it was a wonderful session. If you ask me, I really enjoyed it. It was pretty much informative and insightful. Like, it was really well curated and was covered everything. So I guess, guys, are there any questions? Okay, so we do not have any more questions, so you can continue.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So just to make sure that we all in the same page when it comes to, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. On Twitter, I'm quite new, but you can still connect with me there. If you go and register on the Student Hub, either let me know on LinkedIn or Twitter that you have done so, so I can send you your certificates. I'm really looking forward to sending as many certificates for all of you that have registered on the Student Hub, and hopefully you get value from the Student Hub in terms of the resources that we have there. And obviously, when we launched our RFC, you also get to learn coding skills. If you're already familiar with any coding skills, you learn something from them. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm really, I feel that it's a privilege to be allowed to speak here, and with all the amazing audience and the interaction that I got from you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am, to you also for having us and for coming to this on board and delivering such an amazing session. And so this session is over. So we have a short 5 minutes break, and then for the next things, for the mentorships for different tracks, will be there in the Telegram link, and you can then join. Thank you, guys.
she's so bright. She's so bright.
Darker than the ocean, deeper than the sea. You got everything. This is an open letter from you and me together. Tomorrow's in our hands now.
Find the words that matter, say them out loud. I'll make it better somehow.
Looking down from up on the moon is a tiny blue